I was such a good little boy, I didn't want to think about Bishop Fellay having serious defects. And so I never went into the question of Madame Rossiniere.
Okay.
I never really studied it, but what I know is that he sent us, what I recall, he sent a circular around all the society.
Yep.
Giving members of the society, giving to all priests this vision of Madame Rossiniere, which would be the vision of Bishop, somebody like Bishop, of him at the head of the society, reconciling Catholic lies with Catholic truth. Hey, Catholic lies held by Catholic authority with Catholic truth. Hey, that'll be a wonderful combination, because we'll have our authority and we'll have our truth at the same time. It will all be very nice.
So my question, it might not be answerable. It might be rhetorical.
Steve.
My question is, it's not long after Bishop Fellay is elected Superior General that this alleged vision is brought to his attention, and he has it sent all over the society.
Yes.
It seems as though he liked the idea of possibly being the one to march the society back into Rome already here in the mid-90s, very soon after being elected. And I'm wondering, is that when he got the bug, so to speak, to say, hey, this vision could lay out the pathway for me bringing tradition back into the church instead of the church back to tradition? And I don't know that that's answerable, but things really take a turn very soon after that vision. Now here GREC is about to start up in 97.
Now, 1994, when he did circulate that, there was a ruckus in the society. There were still far too many priests who had an inkling, at least still an inkling of what the Archbishop was really about.
So, okay,
there
so...
was a ruckus. Therefore he backtracked. And the thing was, I think there was a second issue of Cor Unum in which he said, pay no attention, guys. Something like that.
Was it titled Oopsie Daisy?
Yes,
okay.
That's it, yes.
Okay.
Oopsie Daisy. And there was such goodwill towards Bishop Fellay in the wake of the Archbishop's magnetic authority. There was such goodwill towards the Superior General that I think the mass of us forgave him, so to speak, or said, this is a momentary lapse.
I'm wondering if that experience of the ruckus and the backlash that it caused is one of the reason why now let's move up to 1997 with the advent of the GREC conferences. Is that perhaps why those were kept, quote, discreet but not secret?
Absolutely.
Okay, so...
Discreet but not secret, because Catholics don't act in secret. Catholics are out in the open. We're innocent, we've got nothing to hide, therefore we're not secret. However, if this idea of this mixing oil and water, it's wonderful to mix oil and water, because oil is rich and water is cheap. Nothing but oil is quite expensive, and nothing but water it doesn't have any content. So to mix the two, or like mixing water and gasoline in the tank of my car, it's going to make much I'm going to, instead of 30 miles a gallon, I'm going to get 26, 30, 50 miles a gallon with a mixture of oil and water and gasoline. We must try the mixture of water and gasoline. It's going to make us all able to travel much further, much more cheaply. So everybody starts trying water and gasoline. Guess what happens? None of the cars work any longer. So we're all over the church. We're going to mix truth and lies, because it's going to make truth much more attractive to the lying world, and the world will love us, and we'll love the world, we'll convert the world will love the church. This is going to happen all over the church, and it's going to make the church wonderful and accepted and loved and much less expensive all over the world. Guess what happens? The church collapses all over the world. You cannot mix truth with lies. What's happening all over the world, all over the modern world, people have lost the sense of truth. They've lost any belief in objective truth. The truths of the faith depend in no way on me, little me. No way. They're laid down by our Lord Jesus Christ for my benefit. They're going to fit me if I'm obedient and love him. But if I refuse, they're not going to fit me.
So, Your Excellency, this GREC solution.
Yes.
First, perhaps maybe you should explain for the viewers what was it, and Your Excellency, what's wrong with that solution? Why shouldn't we have a deal?
Because none of the motor cars are going to work. Everybody all over the world is going to be persuaded. If we mix water with gasoline, it's going to be much cheaper to run our motor car. Whoosh! I pour a whole jar into it with enthusiasm and love and hope and expectation. I pour a whole jar of water into my gas tank, the gas tank of my car. And then I sit in the front seat all starry-eyed about how much cheaper it's going to be, and I crank the ignition or whatever it is, I touch the electric button today. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. None of the cars work. None of the modernist churches in creation work on the modernist recipe. The only way it works is this: if there's only a little modernism, only one snowball in the tank, not two, only one snowball, the car might still work because there's a high proportion of gasoline. But two snowballs is already too much. You don't even need 4 or 5.
So, this Gilbert Perrault,
yes,
a snowball salesman,
yes,
he's got a political background.
yes,
He has some sympathies to tradition.
yes,
He loves how the incense smells.
that's right.
It's a shame what happened with Archbishop Lefebvre.
Exactly.
Why can't we all just get along?
Exactly.
And Bishop Fellay buys into it.
Yep. The Archbishop is Catholic. The official church is Catholic. There's nothing that can stop them being, with a bit of diplomacy, I'm a diplomat, he says. He says, I'm not a theologian. He says, I'm not a theologian. Immediately, for intelligent Catholics, the red light should be flashing. Not winking, but flashing. I am not a theologian. In other words, doctrine takes second place. What takes first place is love, love, love. We must all get together. We must reunite. A good, decent measure, a good measure of gasoline, but then also a good measure of water. We must mix them together. I am a professional diplomat, and here's how it can be done. Let a cone, put a bit of water in its wine, precisely, as the French say. Let a cone not be quite so aggressive and sharp against Rome. Let Rome lift the excommunications. Let Rome, I forget what else he said. And by this means we can come together, and everybody will happy in the garden from then on. He didn't understand his faith. He was blinded by Catholic authority from Catholic truth. And he thought that the authorities needed at least as much as truth. No, it's not needed at least as much as truth. It's needed less than truth, because without Catholic truth, Catholic authority is nothing. 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 That's what these dopey Joes don't get.
And yet for 3 years, Bishop Fellay, from something of a distance, is behind the scenes supporting these meetings.
Absolutely. But he's a master politician, and he knows that the time is not right for him to present himself at the head of this watering down campaign.
So, and hence the discretion of the meetings.
Absolutely. But we're not acting in secret. Only we're being discreet, because it's a delicate matter to try to say that oil and water mix, or that gasoline and water mix. There are going to be many car drivers who are going to say, you can't do that, it won't work. So we've got to go slowly, catchy monkey. We've got to move slowly in order and discreetly. The time will come when we can come out into the open, but it's not yet here, so we've got to build trust. We must talk about things that make people angry without getting angry. Nicey. Well, nicey, catchy monkey.
So at the end of 3 years of discussions with these men looking for a political solution to massive doctrinal problems,
You got it.
the meetings conclude, and the result of them is that there's a pilgrimage to Rome, which ad extra to the outside is promoted as marching in Rome to show them the strength of tradition. Look at all these priests, look at all these vocations.
Got it.
In actuality, ad infra, only ad intra, only to a small group who know what it really is.
Yep.
It's a signal and a telegraph to Rome, we're ready.
Yeah.
And that's why, I guess this is more of a question, but I'm connecting dots here.
Yeah.
By the time the 3 of the 4 bishops have lunch with Cardinal Hoyos,
Yes.
there's already sort of an expectation
Oh, yes.
that something good is going to happen to us because of all of this.
Oh, yes.
And we can't say publicly yet that we're negotiating with Rome,
No,
because that would flatly contradict the Archbishop's principle.
Right. That's right.
Instead, what happens is there's a
Trust built.
Yeah, trust and good amity is built.
The Romans aren't as bad as all that. And we prove to them that we're not all that bad. We come down the street of Rome with a flock of 5,000 people chanting Catholic chants. This is Catholic. You know, these are traditional sweetie pies that we may well be able to deceive and pull on modernist board. So it's all getting cozy, lovey, sweetie. We're getting closer and closer to mixing oil and water and gasoline.
And it seems that these GREC meetings built Bishop Fellay's enthusiasm even further from a few years prior with the alleged vision of Madame Rossiniere. It seems that by now, he's actually starting to take the first practical measures. For example, Dr. White, in his biography of Your Excellency, drops a little time bomb that I don't think anybody realized before. He says that Your Excellency was slated for removal from the Winona Seminary as early as 1999.
True.
Now that's right in the middle of these GREC discussions.
True.
Just prior to marching into Rome.
A little prior, yes.
Why would Bishop Fellay want to remove Your Excellency from Winona?
What can I say?
Does it have any connection to preparing the terrain for an accord?
Oh, absolutely. And Rome is going to ask for my head. A lot of people think that Rome asked, in order to continue negotiations, Rome asked for my head on a platter. and Bishop Fellay gave it to them.
So...
And it's fairly indifferent to me.
It's interesting as well, Your Excellency. I don't know if you ever saw this. Before Father Alligné, you know, he was expelled from the society for making public comments to the Wanderer in favor of the Campos Accord, which was just about to happen in another year. We're not there yet. But this was the man who denied in that 2003 article. He was asked, was Bishop Williamson transferred to Argentina to get him out of the picture, at least such a high-profile picture as the American Seminary, to pave the way for an accord?
And what did Albano reply?
He said, "Oh no, Your Excellency is suspicious by nature, but we shouldn't really look for things that don't exist." He denied it.
Yeah.
He told the Wanderer it had nothing to do with it. We kind of all knew it did.
Yeah.
Or at least we wondered. The man has 25 years of experience here. What are they doing?
I don't think there's any doubt about it that that's what it was. I myself, I can remember down in Argentina, I met an Argentinian priest, Pablo Suarez, who since is now went to work for the Pope in Rome. He quit the society to give a moment. But in any case, I asked him, because he's a smart cookie, he was a lawyer before he picked up on the vocation. And I remember asking him, why do you think I'm here in Argentina? And he said, oh, I don't know, don't worry about it. I don't know, he said or pretended, but in any case, don't worry about it. So, okay. There was a job to do in Argentina, I tried to do it.
Sure. Okay. But we're setting the table, remember, highlighting these cracks of...
That's correct, you're absolutely right.
Of a progressive...
You've got the thread.
Step-by-step subversion.
That's what it was.
And reorientation.
Yep.
We're in 1999, 2000. By 2001, the bombshell of the Campos Accord happens.
Yes.
That destabilized a lot of people who never thought Bishop de Castro-Meyer's progeny would go that route.
That's right.
Particularly in light of how harshly, but correctly, they criticized Dom Gerard 10 years prior.
Correct.
And then there's Campos making the exact same arguments in 2001
Yep.
that they criticized in Dom Gerard in 1988.
Yep.
And Bishop Fellay had very hard things to say about Campos that same year.
In public.
So this is my question. Yes.
Okay. Now, I remember visiting Mensingen at that time.
Okay.
I had still, honestly, quite a high regard for Bishop Fellay. I was not looking for a traitor. I was not suspecting and looking for proof of my suspicions at this moment. But I remember distinctly, when I visited Mensingen, he showed me the letter that he was writing to, I think, Bishop Refan. And the letter was, oh, don't abandon us here in the society. Don't go without us. What? How are you going without us? We're going to be alone if you go. This is more or less his letter. I said to him, Your Excellency, there's reason behind this. There's no. This letter was entirely on a sort of personal level of, oh, don't disappoint us by leaving us. Don't leave us behind. The meaning was, yeah, don't leave us behind. As though, wait a few more years and we'll be able to come with you.
Precisely what I wondered, because...
I remember seeing that. We were friends, colleagues, comrades in action. That's how I was still at that moment, unquestionably treating Bishop Fellay. I didn't look for trouble. I didn't want trouble. I saw trouble. I mentioned it. Look, this is absolutely undoctrinal. You're not raising any doctrinal objection to Bishop Refan taking steps towards Rome. You're raising just purely personal emotions. Purely personal emotions. You're leaving us behind.
Providentially, I happened to be at the Winona Seminary during that capitulation of Campos as a seminarian.
Yes.
As it turns out, one of my manualia duties was to be a server for the meals.
Yes.
Bishop Fellay was visiting the seminary,
Yeah.
and Your Excellency and Bishop Fellay were seated side by side at the head table,
Yes.
which I had served.
Yeah.
And I happened to be there. I wasn't eavesdropping. I happened to be proximate.
Sure.
And I heard Your Excellency say to Bishop Fellay, Cardinal Castriano Hoyos wants to destroy you. And Bishop Fellay's response, and he'll affirm it if he ever watches this, Bishop Fellay's response was, oh, I wouldn't say he's he says, I don't know if he's trying to destroy us. And my takeaway from that was, uh-oh, there's a disagreement here, and a pretty big one.
Yeah.
Now, to fortify that suspicion, it just so happened that a priest at the seminary at that time, he told me this, and I'd like to ask you about it. He said we would already have a deal with Rome if it wasn't for Bishop Williamson and Avrier.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, okay, I'm taking that statement, I'm combining it with what I heard with my own ears. And I'm sensing trouble.
Yeah. You're a smart cookie, Sean.
Well, now, debatable. Nevertheless, Bishop Fellay comes out with letter number 63, Letter to Friends and Benefactors.
Yes.
And he gives Campos the shellacking of their lives. And yet, just as Dom Gerard went against all his arguments,
Yeah.
and just as Campos, 10 years later, went against their rebuke of Dom Gerard,
Yes.
by 2012, Bishop Fellay is falling under his own knife against Campos.
Yep.
In 2001.
Yep.
So we're seeing this trend still that Your Excellency is describing of cracks in the armor, once stalwart men who maybe never agreed with Archbishop Lefebvre, eventually just coming out and trying to justify the reorientation or deny that it's a reorientation, but nevertheless going in an opposite direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we come more or less to, let's say, 2007.
Okay.
From 2000 to 2010, Bishop Fellay, everywhere he goes, he's giving us updates on Rome.
Yeah.
Here's the latest with Rome.
Yeah.
I was to see the Pope. I was to talk to Cardinal Hoyos.
Yeah.
And he's creating this expectation that something good is going to happen to us.
Yeah.
We're even praying for it in Rosary Crusades.
Yeah.
Without realizing that we're contradicting Archbishop Lefebvre's principle, the principle that Rome itself says exists.
Yeah.
So in the midst of this era of meetings ad nauseum about relations with Rome,
Go on.
Father Celier, a priest of the District of France, writes a book,
Yep.
Benedict XVI and the Traditionalists.
Yep.
And he frames the book as though it's a dream. It's not to be taken seriously.
Right.
It's purely intellectual and academic.
Right.
But here's how we could actually get a practical accord from Rome.
Go on.
And he has to frame it that way because, as Your Excellency says, people are still too well rooted in Lefebvre.
You got it.
They can't just come out and say, we're changing course.
You got it.
So they're preparing minds.
Yep.
And the thesis of his book is there are systemic thinkers like Bishop Tissier, and there are pragmatic thinkers like Archbishop Lefebvre. The systemic thinkers will never change a principle.
Right.
But the pragmatic thinkers will change if extrinsic conditions change. So, for example, were Rome to come around to tradition, then Archbishop Lefebvre would certainly accept a deal. Okay, so we have the invention of these two preconditions. If Rome lifts the excommunications, and if Rome brings back the old Mass, well, that's proof that Rome has come back to tradition and we can reconcile with them.
That's it.
Father de Caqueret at the time is District Superior of France, and he's setting meetings all over France. Father Chazal was talking about this.
Yeah.
To market this book and this idea. It was sponsored by Bishop Fellay. So obviously he wants this argument to get out.
Yep.
And did it not in fact become Bishop Fellay's primary strategy by 2012 to say, there's a new situation in Rome which demands a new response from us? And that was it.
Yep.
So we're covering ground here now by the decades. Mm-hmm. And we're showing how conditions in the society were eroding. Maturing, sure. Sure.
Becoming more enlightened.
Yep.
Becoming less dogmatic, less enclosed, less restricted.
And things seem to be going well.
Yes.
Your Excellency was down in Argentina now.
Yes.
Father LaRue was giving a whole new formation.
Right.
Oh, using the same books, of course, at least initially.
Yes.
But you can imagine the difference in the spiritual conferences 3 times a week. And then all of a sudden, Your Excellency gives the Holocaust interview.
Yes.
Tell me about your thoughts here in 2022 as to why Your Excellency gave that interview, and were you set up by this reporter asking you that question in Germany?
Yes.
So that you could be sidelined? Or was it just a convenient happenstance that now Bishop Fellay could say, I got him. Now I got him.
Okay. You got a little series of questions there. Basically, you've got the picture. Again, I was not looking for evil. Okay, first at that interview. The interview was set up, apparently, from the Vatican through a pair of French woman journalists, or at least one French woman journalist, with the Bishop of Sweden to the laity, the Swedish laity who made that interview. Okay, in other words, actually, it's very possible the Vatican was behind it. Somebody clever was going to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. First bird would be the risk of B16, Benedict XVI, hooking up with tradition. Tradition getting back in. The bad guys, the real bad guys ruling us, are very afraid of the Catholic Church. Just like the communists, the real bad guys know that their number 1 enemy on the face of this earth is the Catholic Church. That's the real organization that blocks evil. When it's functioning as it should function. At the price of the martyr's blood, that's of no importance. The Catholic Church has always got martyrs ready in line, etc. Okay. Number 2 would be to completely discredit Benedict XVI. He's passing for a good guy. To stop the oil and water or gasoline and water agreement which Bernie and Bergy were putting together. No, I'm sorry, not Bergy. Bergy and Benny.
Sounds like
it's not Bergy and Benny. Excuse me, but it's Bernie and Benny at that point in time. It's Bernard Fellay and Benedict XVI, and they're putting together, and they're really hoping to put it. We'll sell you water and you sell us gasoline, and we'll have a great oil and gasoline agreement, and all the Catholic cars all over the world will be once again running smoothly without this tremendous antagonism between tradition and officiality. That's what we're both going for. I love Bernie and he loves Benny. So Benny and Bernie are really on the same wavelength, except one is coming from the left and the other is coming from the right. But they're coming towards, a mixture of water and gasoline, which is going to make the cars work wonderfully all over the world. Both of them are dreaming. Both of them are dreaming. Water has an objective nature. Gasoline has an objective nature. If you want gasoline to burn, you cannot mix it with water. If you want tradition to make the church function, you cannot mix it with the modern world. Not possible. The modern world is rotten with godlessness. It's built on godlessness. Its basic principles are godless. The principles of liberty, equality, fraternity, rights of man, and so on and so on and so on. It's all fraud, lies, appearance, seduction. So, that's the reality. That's an objective reality. But the poor 2 of them are... So, the bad guys say that's got to be stopped, because even if it's just the appearance of an agreement, then tradition is going to come towards... the Catholic Church is going to get that much more traditional. Benedict XVI, is going to have a real chance by saying, I'm now in agreement with Bishop Fellay, and Bishop Fellay is now in agreement with me, so I'm really traditional. The Catholic Church is going to get is going to give the appearance of a green light to tradition, and the bad guys, the real bad guys, know that even the appearance of the Catholic Church becoming properly Catholic again is too much for their purposes. It's the beginning of their fortress of lies being blown up. They cannot allow even that much. Therefore, they've got to destroy the Benny Burney agreement, which did risk coming about. And it would have been the peak of Bishop Fellay's estimation of his own abilities and estimation of his own successes. It would have been the triumph of his career.
Just as Madame Rossiniere foretold,
Exactly.
allegedly.
Exactly. So that had to be stopped. So Almighty God used the bad guys to stop a false agreement which Almighty God also didn't want. So that was number one of the bad guys. Number two of the bad guys was to completely discredit this semi-traditional modernist Pope. Cardinal Ratzinger, there is some goodwill in him, no doubt, some good faith, he means well, but the mind is a Hegelian mess,
Yeah.
complete Hegelian mess. The poor man has got a good brain, but he can't think. It's sad, but that's what modern philosophy does to you.
Yeah.
That's the dissolution of modern times. Hegel follows Kant. Kant is the great enemy, denounced without being named by Pius X in Pascendi. Some very smart French priest wrote the encyclical. And Pope Pius, well, somebody apparently, I'd love to know the history of Pascendi, but somebody wrote a draft, some kind of draft. The Pope didn't like it. Then he hit the right man to write another, and that man went down deep and hit on Kant. And Kant is what did I nearly say? I nearly said, but I don't say it, the nigger in the woodpile. Oh, I don't say that. I don't say that at all. No. He is the black African in the woodpile. No, I can't say that either. No. I've got, these are all these horrible old-fashioned expressions. No. Kant is the real villain of el malo de la película, the bad guy in the film. He's the bad guy. He is the real bad guy. But his outward appearance was absolutely immaculate, completely regular, apparently of goodwill, not against the existence of God. What truth is what I want. I want God. Oh, therefore God exists.
Yep.
So he's not against God. That's the slipperiness of modernism. He's not against God. He's for God. I want God. I love God. But I'm not going to argue about whether I just love that does it now. Arguments are useless. He says the head is useless. So he's destroying the human head. That's a parenthesis. That back to the interview. Secondly, he would destroy. It would completely discredit Pope Benedict, which I think it contributed to doing.
So Bishop Fellay goes on a public campaign, bewildering at the time, a campaign to malign Your Excellency on the grounds of the damage that it was doing to the Society's apostolate in Germany and kicking the Jewish hornet's nest and all the rest of it. And of course, what he was really so upset about was that it was a major monkey wrench in relations with Benedict XVI.
Exactly.
And his deal.
Exactly.
So there you are. It's 2009. You're in the Wimbledon attic.
Yep.
People start to wonder. This is the first. So all these cracks in the armor have been occurring since the death of Lefebvre.
Yes.
But this is the first time now where the faithful start to scratch their head a little bit and wonder, well, so what's going to become of Bishop Williamson? When's he coming back? And why was he sidelined for saying that? Archbishop Lefebvre used to talk about the Jews all the time. They could get as mad as they want. Why now is it?
What's the big deal?
What's the big deal? Nevertheless, there you are for the better part of 4 years.
The better part of 4 years is correct. In the Wimbledon attic.
But you've still got the Eliason comments going.
Yes.
And it's burning Bishop Fellay up because it frustrates the reason you're sitting in that attic in the first place.
Yes.
To silence your voice.
Yes.
He's trying to kill the name, probably in anticipation of your eventual expulsion.
Yes.
Or at least sitting quietly in the attic with no Eliason comments, which amounts to kind of the same thing in a way.
Yes.
And we start to hear rumors of what we're calling the secret doctrinal preamble. Some kind of an offer from Rome. Not the offer itself, but just the preamble of an offer.
Yes.
Where whatever's in it, if that flies, then anything is possible.
Yes.
We've already got the two preconditions satisfied, so Rome is traditional again.
Yes.
And now they're giving a preamble. Well, that never went away in the minds of the public, that you're out of the picture, more or less, and there's an offer from Rome.
Yes.
People start to wonder if there's a connection between the two.
Okay, go on. I'm an innocent in the woods. I'm sitting down in South America, being a good little boy, and flying all over the world to act as a bishop, to give confirmations, to confirm the little children, and I'm still a good little boy in the society. Except that I have kicked the hornet's nest, as you say, and that is going to serve as a major excuse. And keep going. You're definitely on track.
Well, so we catch wind that there's going to be, now in 2011, there's going to be a meeting of all the major superiors of the society.
Yes, this is after the doctrinal discussions with Rome.
Correct.
From 2009 to 2011.
Yep.
A meeting, I think, about 5 times, headed up by Bishop Galarreta, well headed up, because he came out of those negotiations saying any doctrinal agreement is impossible. There's no way we can agree on doctrine.
And that was a problem.
And that's a problem, because there's still the shadow of Archbishop's principle around.
So with that dynamic, when you would logically think, well, this is all over with, and thank goodness.
Correct.
The opposite happens.
Yes.
We had 3 years of failed discussions. They don't accept a thing we're saying.
Yes.
Let them go away for a while and let's just get back to the church's business. Instead, we're all going to meet in Albano, Italy, to discuss the secret doctrinal preamble, which is understood as being more or less an offer from Rome, although we don't know yet.
I don't know about that, but go on.
Except we're told that one major superior, Bishop Williamson, is not invited unless he first agrees to close down the Eliason comments. Why didn't you do that?
To tell you the truth, my memory is fallible, okay, from the get-go. But I can't remember having cut any such deal. I don't remember the doctrinal preamble coming from Rome. I remember Bishop Fellay's doctrinal reaction of the spring, of March, I think it was, of 212. I think, in March of 212, I think. He had a reaction to Rome, which wasn't very satisfactory. It pleased the Romans, but it wasn't in itself very satisfactory. That I can remember. A secret doctrinal preamble, I think, was secret from me. I could be wrong.
Okay.
I think I didn't know about it.
It would make sense he wouldn't tell you about it because of what your reaction would have been.
Yes. Then in 211, Bishop Galarreta gave a very Lefebvrist speech to the gathered superiors, except, as you said, the poison in the tail, namely, Lefebvre was right, Lefebvre was right, Lefebvre was right, Lefebvre was right, unless everybody on the side agrees that he was wrong.
That was the gotcha.
At the end. Somehow, I don't know how, but he's a master politician. Bishop Fellay managed to ignore that Lefebvre's blast from the past. He ignored it. And in early 212, he was building towards a negotiation, towards a deal.
So a question about that. Your Excellency refuses to cut down the Eleison comments. You kept it going, and therefore you weren't allowed to go to Albano, Italy to join the discussion.
It's very possible. I know nothing about having cut any such deal. I don't.
No, it wasn't a deal. It was a punitive punishment. You were given an ultimatum: either get rid of the Eleison comments, or you're not coming to Albano.
I honestly don't remember that.
Okay.
I know that Bishop Fellay did not like Eleison comments. That's for sure. And I clung to Eleison comments because I thought, I didn't even think a bishop has the right to be speaking or teaching. I didn't even think that. What I thought was, there's a number of Catholic souls out in today's big bad world who need those comments, who make use of those comments, who lean on those comments, who live off those comments. That was my thought. That's what I was told by Dr. White.
And I would agree with that, but it seems that Bishop Fellay didn't want you to give them that nourishment.
No, because I was constantly for truth against authority. And any authority that sets itself against truth is just not authority. And Bishop Fellay was against the sheep being nourished. No way. That I thought. That's the basis on which I refused to let Eleison comments go. Because I was thinking pastorally of a number of sheep needing this nourishment. I'm not saying the nourishment is nourishing. I'm not saying it's infallible. I'm not saying it's wonderful. But the fact was that, as Dr. White told me and kept assuring me, that there are sheep that need this. And that was my impression.
Okay, so for those reasons, you did not comply with the ultimatum. Consequently, you were not in Albano. You're still in Wimbledon.
Yes.
But that was an eye-opening moment for a lot of faithful. Remember, for us, we're still all trying to wonder, is Bishop Fellay doing this to get a deal with Rome?
Yes.
Since more or less 2010, when it seems like Your Excellency's never coming back, and we're trying to figure it out.
Yes.
And now there's a deal. Is there a connection with the bishop? He's not invited to go discuss it in Albano, Italy.
Right.
Whoa. Right. But we still don't have proof.
Right.
We're still speculating.
Right.
And at that study, or at that conference of major superiors, maybe it will be okay because it shows up on the internet, the study called Reflections on a Roman Proposal.
Yes.
By Bishop de Galarreta.
Yes.
At first glance, as Your Excellency said, it's wonderful. It's cold water on any kind of a deal.
Yes.
Until the end.
Yes.
Why would Bishop de Galarreta say something like, these are all the reasons we can't do it, but if we all agree to do it, then that's different?
Okay. I don't pretend to know Bishop Galarreta all that well, even though we were colleagues in the consecration of so and so. One, he's an intelligent man. Okay? And therefore he understands the whole of everything. He understands the truth argument. He's capable of seeing it and he sees it. But then when it comes to putting it into practice, well, he's got this loyalty to the society. He's got his position in the society. He's got what will happen to him if it's a Wimbledon antic for him also if he sticks to the truth position. So he's got that little let out at the tail. I think that makes, what you say there is not familiar to me. I don't remember the little let out, but that makes perfect sense. And the little let out at the tail will enable him to have to not to have to face up to the consequences of his intelligence.
It was shortly after this, sometime in, I believe, late 2012. It was after the general chapter.
Yes.
Villepro, he made a statement which might shed light on this perplexing little clause at the end of the Reflections paper.
Yes.
He said, more or less, it's impossible that the collected superiors of the society could make an error.
Foolish. Foolish.
I mean, if that's what he believed, then looking back on his Reflections paper, you could say, well, maybe he's not completely devoid of integrity by saying, if we all go together, then that's okay. Because if he secretly believes all going together would mean it's the correct thing to do, as though the society's general chapter has some kind of infallibility,
Yeah.
Maybe that's how, and yet he doesn't seem to pick up on the contradiction. Here's all the principles of Lefebvre that you laid out in your paper.
Yes.
Well, then how could the collected superiors go against it?
And you got it. It's a very simple question. You got it in a nutshell.
It creates the impression that there are some superiors in the society who seem to be more concerned about the corporate wellness.
There we are.
And then that's a major problem for the faithful.
Yep.
Because what are you doing?
Yep.
Are you for the truth?
Yep.
Or are you for...
You see, it's the loss of truth which is the problem. And the priests, the devil works much harder on priests and on bishops. He works on priests because if he can make a priest fall, a lot of people are going to fall into hell. He works priests squared on bishops because if a bishop falls, then many priests fall and all the laity fall. He works cubed on the Pope. So the popes are heavily attacked by the devil. The bishops are heavily attacked. The Pope is super heavily attacked.
I can imagine there's a tremendous burden.
Oh God. Pius X was dead scared. And, oh my goodness me. Well, and then he works squared on the bishops and he works especially on priests. Because the higher he can get them, the more in the pyramid underneath that are going to fall. And so...
well, it seems he got Bishop Fellay.
Oh boy.
Because here we are in late 2011.
Yes.
It's 20 years since the death of Archbishop Lefebvre.
Yes.
And we're recounting a whole string of practical action and measures that contradict his principle.
Yes. Absolutely.
And here we've got Bishop Fellay seemingly running now, as we enter 2012, with Father Celier's playbook. Okay.
Yeah.
Things have fundamentally changed in Rome. It demands a different response from us. So in February of 2012, he let the cat out of the bag finally.
Yes.
And all conjecture disappeared. The society was now willing. He said at Candlemas in Winona on February 2nd, 2012, I'm willing to accept a deal with Rome if there's no strings attached.
Yeah.
Boom. All over the world, that's the birth of the resistance right there. Because now there's no more doubt.
Yeah.
What's going on? Now we start thinking in hindsight, retrospectively, saying, now I understand why Bishop Williamson wasn't allowed at the meeting and has been sequestered for an historical opinion.
Yeah.
And all these other things we've been discussing, now it all makes sense.
Yeah, that's right.
So that brings us to part 2 of this interview.
Go on.
There is now something in the world, a spontaneous reaction between people who've never met each other.
Right.
In different countries.
Just like after Vatican II.
Exactly. Vatican IIb, as Your Excellency says.
Vatican IIb.
So people are reacting now. They don't want to leave Archbishop Lefebvre behind. Some do, actually.
Oh, yes.
The majority actually do. Of the faithful. And of the clergy, it would seem.
Yes.
They're ready.
Yeah.
They've been listening to sermons about relations with Rome for over a decade.
Yeah.
They're hopeful that something good is going to happen. Bishop Fellay sees the time is right, and he makes his announcement.
Yep.
So the society, in earlier days under Archbishop Lefebvre, had the hot summer of 1976.
Correct.
Now it has the whole hot year of 2012.
Okay. Yep.
Your Excellency is now openly criticizing this. A couple months after Bishop Fellay's announcement, a letter emerges on the internet called Letter of the Three Bishops to the General Council.
Yep.
Tell me about what motivated that letter and what you hoped would happen from it. Not just the obvious, getting them to rethink this notion, but there's a huge contradiction staring all the priests and all the faithful in the face, highlighted by, once again, Bishop de Galarreta at Albano. Already, the trust is gone.
Mm-hmm.
People see the contradiction.
Yep.
They see there was an attempt to hide the contradiction.
Yep.
Lots of attempts. Nevertheless, Your Excellency seems to have tried a last-ditch maneuver in writing to the General Council, and then it shows up on the internet. And people see there's three bishops against the General Council's.
Correct.
Tell me about that time and how it ended up on the internet.
Well, firstly about that time and secondly about the internet. The internet question is, I did not put it on the internet. I'm quite sure Bishop Galarreta and Bishop Celier did not put it on the internet. I think it's a particular priest who, I forget the exact details, but a priest, I think, stumbled across it on the internet in English. I don't know, I don't remember. Or maybe he found it in French. He said, this letter's got to go to the English. It's a priest who, I know his name, I won't say it for his protection, but I think Mexico knows who it was. But he put it on the internet. He got it translated into English, I think. I think he got it put it into, I don't know. I think he got it put into English and then on the internet. So it didn't appear on the internet in the original language. I think that's the truth.
In my opinion, he's a hero for doing it, but